We are Joey and Kim Scruggs, and this is our Find It Here story.
Every family has something that impacts their life in a way that they could never imagine, whether it's an unplanned financial event or a death that is unexpected. Whereas in our case, it was an unexpected diagnosis of a chronic illness for our son Zachary. During the winter of 2007, our son Zachary began to have seizures and was diagnosed with epilepsy. It didn't take us long to realize that what was his diagnosis was actually our diagnosis, and it changed the face of our family forever.
At this time, I had been a part-time staff member here at the church for about 4 years, and I had just decided to quit my secular job and to begin serving here on a full-time basis. Within about 2 months, Zachary was diagnosed. The next several months were a struggle for our entire family. I couldn't understand why God seemed to be punishing us for when we felt like we were actually following His calling. We felt like we were under constant attack with no defense.
To be completely honest, the stress those first few years after Zachary's diagnosis was brutal. Joey and the kids and I would go about our daily lives. We would ensure people were fine. We know God has a plan, everything's good. Then we'd come home and we'd feel sad and exhausted and hurt because we didn't feel like anybody truly understood everything we were going through. We spent days thinking if we just didn't have to leave the house, we'd be good. But when we did, we would immediately start developing a plan. Where could we go if Zach had a seizure? How could we get out of this situation? We would look everywhere we went and scope out the quickest exit. We lived our life on high alert, 24/7, just waiting for the next seizure to happen.
For me personally, the stress of being the spiritual leader of our household and being a pastor was extremely difficult. I was a pastor here at the church and I was dealing with major anger issues with God. But God has a way of revealing Himself in His own time. I remember a night that Zachary and I were in the hospital in Memphis and he was asleep and I was sitting in the dark kind of reading by lamplight in my Bible, and I was flipping through pages. And I came to John chapter 9, and it was the story of Jesus healing the blind man. And the people around were asking why the man was blind. Was it something he had done, something his parents had done? What was the reason? And Jesus told them that this happened so that He could be glorified. And in that moment, reading that, it was almost like a light had come on in the room. And I began to see all the people, the friends, the family, the strangers who had been affected by Zach's epilepsy in a positive way. People were helping us, but we were able to help others. We were able to share our story and to help them in their journey.
Zach had surgery to remove part of his brain on March 14th, 2014 in an attempt to eliminate the seizures. From the time we returned home after his surgery until about July of that year, I lived in a fog. It was as if God had given me the anesthesia for the surgery and the healing process, and then He woke me up when it was all over so I could deal with the aftermath of those emotions that occur when you've experienced a traumatic event. I prayed all the time, I read scripture, I clung to James 1, truly believing that the testing of my faith was going to produce perseverance. And I would tell myself all the time, consider it joy, it's joyful, it's joyful. But honestly, I was a complete mess. I couldn't focus on things, I cried a lot, I felt nothing. I was completely numb to all emotions, including feeling love for my family, and that was the part that scared me the most. I sought help from a Christian therapist and spent the next few years seeing her first twice a week, then weekly, then bi-weekly, then monthly, until now we just meet for breakfast every once in a while and just talk about things. She helped me to climb out of that fog and to regain the perspective and to see things from God's point of view. She prayed with me, she asked me difficult questions, but those questions helped me to realize and understand that God did love me, that this was not a punishment, and that I really would survive. I continue to use those tools that she taught me when Satan tries to undermine the truth that I know to be truth in my mind, and He does that a lot. And while life is still certainly stressful, and we still live on high alert, I am able to now look at life in 24-hour increments, and I just do the best that I can to glorify God through our circumstances in that time frame.
So we're now a family who has lived with epilepsy for almost 12 years. And we still live life on high alert. We still walk into rooms planning our exit strategy just in case something were to happen. But what has changed is we realize that everybody has something. Everybody has a stress, whether it be something big or something small. There is something in their life that's going to affect their journey. It's going to affect how they look at life and how they walk spiritually. For us, Find It Here is so much more than just a sermon series. It's how we live our daily life and how we have made it through the stress of the past 12 years. The friends and family here have helped us through physical, emotional, financial hardships. They have walked with us through this journey, and they have shown us that God is all around all the time. Our family has definitely grown to understand. The more stressful life gets, the more we realize how much God cares for us.